I think it's 1 o'clock, and so I'm going to call the meeting to order.
You just turned it off.
See by the filled chairs here at the rostrum that we have a quorum. So I'll just remind everyone that, as we have been doing previously this year, we're live streaming the meeting, and we are recording the meeting. So if you want to stay out of the public eye in terms of that source of electronic communication, please move toward the rear. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda that you have in front of you, the board, unless you have some suggested changes?
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Second? Evelyn, second. If there are no changes, all in favor? Thank you. I'd like to ask the Secretary to be our task master, please. Thank you. And John Felton, would you be the timekeeper for the open forum comments, please? And it is now time for the open forum. Number 3 item. Sue, if that microphone isn't live, would you turn it on, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Susan Millar, 373 Greenfield Circle. Kathy, could I ask you to pass these down? I'll stay within my 3 minutes, John, but I thought the board might be interested in a mini interim report on the finances of the 50th anniversary.
Thank you.
So, I've been over the figures several times with Kathy, and she hopes I never call her again. But I think I've managed to reconcile everything that is on the CFM expense and revenue pages. Our gross donations to the 50th Anniversary Committee were $6,921.40. From that figure, subtracted the in-kind donated trolley use by Sebastiani Winery, and also the cost of making the banners. Every ticket that we had for every event was sold. Everything was a sellout. Our total revenue was $25,415. Our total expense was $23,505.99, leaving us with a surplus of $1,909.01. I don't know where that is. But we have some plans and some ideas. Bob Chapman would like to work on getting a plaque of honor created, which would name the donors that did donate to the 50th anniversary, and we'd like to put up probably in Berger. His estimate for that right now is about $500. After that, I had hoped that we could have a commemorative plaque in the new garden in the plaza area. That has been researched briefly and may not stay within the parameters of $1,500. But anyway, we will still have a surplus after Bob finishes, and probably we'll get some ideas on what to do. Anyway, we're very happy for the support that the board gave us, and all the people that bought tickets and enjoyed it, and all the people that helped make it happen. So thank you very much, board members.
And thanks again to you and Bob and the rest of your great committee.
Bob Giddings, J.C. Lane. I want to read a short portion of something that was sent to all board members. For some years now, the OVA has been the beneficiary of impact fees from developers. The end of this boon to our income is now in sight. This and the most previous OVA boards have done an exceptional job of booking this income properly and not allowing us to become addicted to this easy money. But that source of income for our capital improvement fund is now coming, it would appear, to an end. Again, this and the most previous OVA boards have done an excellent job in recognizing that our OVA buildings and infrastructure are getting on in age and need work. Professional engineers have advised us of needed repairs and upgrades to all our buildings. For example, the Burger needs more insulation and double glazed windows and other items for optimum usage and minimum operating costs. The West needs considerable attention, East less so. It would be unfortunate to be aware of these many fixes and improvements necessary to keep Oakmont a desired residential location, and then to string out the solutions to many years into the future when the community has the resources to address all in the next 1 to 3 years while keeping reserves adequate. No responsible OVA member objects to slight increases in annual dues if they are assured that the money is used wisely and will keep our OVA facilities in top-notch shape. Likewise, potential buyers of Oakmont homes will not decide to purchase here or not because of a $3 monthly difference in dues. That amount is just not a material factor in their decision. But $3 a month produces $166,000 of annual dues incomes to the OVA. That amount of money may be what is needed to repair the West Rec building, or at least a large portion of it. I am not proposing a $3 increase to monthly dues per person, but I am asking this board to consider the above mentioned factors and increase the 2014 monthly dues per person more than the 50 cents that has been previously proposed. No one can be absolutely sure of the future, but if OVA members want well-maintained facilities, excellent and well-maintained and sometimes new recreational facilities, think bocce ball or pickleball, and a professional administrative and maintenance staff, then we have to consider raising our monthly dues perhaps more than 50 cents, merely 1% every other year. I compliment the volunteer staff of this board and our two most recent boards for their husbandry of our financial resources. But I ask that you consider further growing the asset replacement fund in anticipation of the many repairs and upgrades that loom on our aging facilities horizon. Certainly it is good that at the end of our fiscal year, we can transfer unused money from the operating fund to the asset replacement fund. In fact, it is very good. But for the reasons already mentioned, the operating fund may not, in the future, be so accommodating. You, the OVA board, are the association's leaders. I earnestly ask you to simply look at the plate of Oakmont Village facility needs that are presently before you and begin today to more amply prepare for our financial future to meet those needs. And I thank you for this time.
Thank you, Bob.
Wally Shelf, Bellhaven Court. Very little comes out of Washington, D.C. these days that's quotable, but I found one sentence in the newspaper a couple of days ago that I wish to read to this board before you start the business portion of your meeting. And surprise of surprises, this is from a Republican member of the House of Representatives. Small print, I need my glass. Quote, sometimes you have to work real hard to listen to the quiet majority and not be governed by the loud minority. Thank you.
Hi, Arlene O'Rourke, Good Mountain Circle. I'm here to talk about the upcoming Veterans Day Parade, Monday, November 11th. I don't know how many of you think about it every year, but this is going to be our 9th year. Mel Ruiz started this 9 years ago, and this year we now have Kiwanis Club sponsoring it, and they've joined Mel's team in planning for it. We'd like to see all of you either out in front of your houses cheering the veterans on or participating in it. We're looking for people who would like to participate, decorate a vehicle of some kind, and possibly offer a ride to a veteran. There are some veterans out there who would like to ride but have no transportation. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be here, and we're willing to sign you up, and we hope to see you out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. A festive occasion. Any other open forum comments?
I'm Anita Eastland with Mountain Circle. I'm president of the Oakmont Pickleball Club. And first of all, I'd like to thank the OVA board for having pickleball on the agenda today. I will be reading comments written by Noel Lyons, our secretary, since he's out of town. These comments and 4 attachments should be in your packets. Since the club last addressed the board, much has happened with Oakmont Pickleball. You have received the recommendations from the Long Range Planning Committee that OVA commit to building 2 pickleball courts, replacing the unused shuffleboard area. Productive discussions between Tennis Club and the Pickleball Club have produced an agreement for sharing OVA tennis courts. This agreement includes painting lines for 2 pickleball courts on Court 4 at East as a temporary accommodation until permanent courts are built. Pickleball's popularity continues to grow, with as many as 25 players showing up on Wednesday morning sessions at Fast Club. However, we've been advised that we will no longer be able to use those courts beginning in November. Based on these developments, we urge the Board of Directors to, 1, make a firm commitment to the development of permanent pickleball courts. The tennis club needs this action to accept the use of Court 4 for pickleball, that it is in fact just temporary. Number 2, direct OVA staff to arrange for painting the 2 courts on Court 4. Adams Surfacing gave a bid of $785 for this work, and that is attached. Incidentally, the cost of restoring the court should be nil, since this court is due for resurfacing and painting within the next year. Unless there is a new facilities committee formed, appoint an ad hoc committee to make recommendations for siting and cost for permanent pickleball courts. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. We'll be taking up that subject, as you can see, near the end of today's agenda. Not seeing any other speakers, so.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Goodwin, Old Oak Lane. I sent a letter to the board, and I'd just like to read it. It is thoughts for you to consider. It has been said there is no higher calling than that of public service. Those duly elected bear the responsibility of making decisions based on both facts and input from their constituents. History has shown that failure to take into consideration the will of those governed is both costly and foolish. In fact, America's founding fathers recognized the failure of leaders responding to citizens' concerns. They debated and wrote documents with the intent of representative governing for not only the privileged, entitled, or in some cases, the simple majority, rather for the good of most people residing in the country. I realize it's not easy for leaders to elicit comments and points of view from all concerned. Certainly, the disbanding of appointed committees who have researched, prepared, and proposed their findings, only to have those findings apparently not taken into consideration by the OVA, in my opinion, borders on arrogance. To ignore valid objections in order to push through a plan or project that fulfills the short-term desire of decision makers is counterproductive to the interests of Oakmont Village residents. Having said that, the question we must ask ourselves is, what do we do now? My suggestion would be to pause until somehow a consensus is established regarding the priority of Oakmont's current needs. From all accounts I've read, Oakmont's founders envisioned a planned adult community, providing opportunities for recreation in a world-class setting. Rather than a large administrative office building taking up the majority of the green, which certainly does not fit the plan of that vision, perhaps we could have a smaller building and develop a park-like area on the proposed site, making it a destination for strollers where they could sit on a bench near or under a tree with grass under their feet. I would ask that you stop the proceeding with the proposed size and location of the CBC.
I'm sorry, sir, but you have to wrap it up. Your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. We'll turn now then to announcements and the recording of our meeting. The board has had an unusual busy past 3 weeks, and for those that may not have heard, the result of those 3 weeks was to negotiate a contract with a new manager, Ms. Cassie Turner. If you hadn't had an opportunity to go online and read the extensive interview about Ms. Turner and her background that Al Haggerty wrote and posted there because the interview took place too late to get into the Oakmont newspaper that is due out today. I think you will enjoy reading about the experience, but most you'll enjoy reading about the philosophies that Ms. Turner intends to bring to our association as our new manager. My last conversation and email exchanges indicate that she and her husband will be moving to a temporary rental location here in Oakmont this coming weekend of the 19th, and having things get settled and in order, she anticipates starting work for us on Thursday, the 24th of October. In conjunction with the new manager arriving, Sue Millar and Pat Amadeo have agreed to lead a committee to put together plans for a reception in honor of her and for as many residents as possible to come and meet her at a very early date between now and our next board meeting. So please look for that information. Some of you have probably also noticed that there are a lot of storage containers and construction equipment beginning to appear on the property adjacent to the former gas station. The Meadow developer is ready to start the initial grading on that property within the next 10 days. Their spokesman, Mr. Ken Blackman, came to the OCDC meeting last Thursday to provide that information directly to the community. This is the kind of grading that they hope to get done before the first rains penetrate the soil so far that the heavy road-related and site-related work that they need to do can be done. And he brought to the committee's attention the fact that the Goodwill trailer, which we've enjoyed having on the corner of the property, is going to be in the way of that grading that they need to do. And so the OCDC immediately jumped in to see what other kinds of options might be suitable, because they are willing to have the trailer returned to a portion of their property, probably the commercial parcel immediately adjacent to Oakmont Drive, once they've been able to do this 6 weeks or so worth of of heavy grading. Kathleen Connolly has made a contact with Mr. Doug Vance, the property vice president for the Berger Foundation, in hopes of getting their cooperation to place it temporarily on the vacant beauty parlor property. The executive committee of the Berger Foundation has declined that request. Will Haymaker, a member of the OCDC, has also contacted the new owner of the gas station, and they have declined to have the trailer put there. The reason that the OCDC committee asked me to include this in my announcements today is because that trailer not only provides services for us, but provides jobs for 2 people. And if the trailer has to go away for a period of time, that means those individuals lose their jobs. And so I am looking for some indication from my fellow directors as to whether or not they would find any objection to our permitting them to temporarily put that trailer on the OVA Burger Center parking lot property, adjacent to the outer line of parking spaces and up toward the end, directly across the street from the Oakmont Gardens. I'd appreciate any thoughts or input that you may have. I realize this is new information, but
Have we discussed this with our insurance company for liability issues?
yes, and we have assurance from the Goodwill people that their insurance.
John, can you put, I presume you're talking about putting it at the extreme end of this parking lot, maybe in the corner adjacent to the lawn bowling green, is that?
I was talking about that far end, but adjacent to the roadway.
Okay. Yeah, we just need to make sure there's adequate road clearance there.
We would absolutely have to do that.
I think it's something we should certainly consider, because I do think that Goodwill van, or whatever you want to call it, is a valuable asset. I use it all the time and get rid of stuff.
I'm not concerned from a liability issue, but it's not something I wanted to go into just independently. So I'm looking for all the input I can get. Yes, sir. Your microphone, please.
Would it be located such that it wouldn't interfere with the mail drop box?
We could certainly make sure of that.
Okay.
Kathleen?
Yes, one thing I learned yesterday from the fellow that was stationed at the trailer is that every morning a truck comes in to empty the trailer and take away the goods. So in essence, you need space for 2 large trucks when they make the exchange. I noticed it was happening today as I drove by, and I just thought you should know that there would have to be room for another truck to come in. And they don't change out. What they do is just empty out the trailer and take it off in the truck.
I think it'd be, if we could just authorize the president or someone by his direction to work with this until we find a solution. And
Would we prefer a different location? Let's say put it at the upper end of the east parking lot.
Well, Mr. Chairman, from our discussions and from your presentation, I understand this to be time of the essence.
Yes.
All right. So to have put together a group of people to make a decision with the chairman, no. I think we as a board sit there and just by sitting there saying yay or nay, as a body sitting there saying, do we approve of this kind of action? If we do, then just let the chairman sit there and find the best place in Oakmont to do that.
Without objection then from other members of the board, I'll go ahead and try and make that kind of arrangement, working with Kathleen Conley and the representative of the Goodwill, whose name I have. Yes, Mr. Brian Ruckrig is the coordinator, and they readily have equipment to do the moving around So it's not a logistical item for them to make this relocation. But it's something that will have to happen by the end of this week. Without objection, I'll take care of it. Thank you. I wanted to bring to the attention of the community that we've got an important activity coming up. It's hard to believe that this is the 6th month that this board has been serving, as you see its membership. But we will be appointing a nominating committee at our next board meeting, the middle of November. And we would like to have as broad an involvement as any volunteers are willing to step forward and offer their services as a member of that committee. We have not selected a chairman. We have not selected any specific members, but we'd like to have as much indication from members of their willingness to participate in that as possible. So please think of that yourselves and think of it in terms of talking to your neighbors and let us know that those that might be willing to serve. I hope you've all had a chance to see the very good work that's been done at the West Rec Center. After 4 years of not being able to accomplish that, we now have a completely redone and accessibility appropriate parking area adjacent to the cabana. It's got its own sidewalk all the way around so that people getting out of their cars don't have to walk across the parking lot in order to make use of that. It has 6 designated handicap spaces as well as 2 or 3 additional non-handicap spaces. And I find it personally refreshing just to see how neat and clean the whole parking area looks, including even a dotted yellow line down the middle of the drive paths.
John, may I ask you a question on that? Are the number of handicap spaces due to the code, city code or state code? There's already, of course, complaints about parking places close.
It's more than are required.
It's more than that.
I would also like to have Director John Felton report on the hard work he's been doing relative to building permits and contract bids for the East Rec Center locker room work.
Well, I'm pleased to announce we made more progress. Otherwise, I was going to turn the sign around backwards. At this point, this coming Wednesday, we've got contractors coming in for the bid walkthrough process, and they've already come in and picked up their architectural drawings that have been stamped off and returned to us from the city, along with the permits that were required. I brought them in on Thursday of last week, and they were ready on Tuesday. So that's ready to go. As soon as we get the bids in, there's a slot of time set aside for the contractors to be able to review the bids and come back to us with their numbers. And at that time, they come back with sealed bids, and the board will review the bids and the experience we've had with the different contractors to come out with the balance to move forward. I'm very pleased that that's been done. One of the things that we did, and I have to hand it to Evelyn George, has played a large part in helping us and helping me personally get through this, was that we needed to match the tile so it looked decent when we rebuild everything. And there's a lot of tile that has to be replaced. That is custom colored, and that was ordered here a few weeks ago. But actually, it was before that we got the colors matched. The tile is actually on order at this time, so that because of the lead time, we didn't want to have a contractor come in and then go through the process and add another 6 weeks on top of it. So we moved that up, and we've been close coupling things as best as we can. The scope of work information is all ready, and I got a lot of help from our new maintenance manager, Mark Rogers, who's sitting over here, and I want to thank him for that. So that's where we are. We're moving as fast as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I'd like to conclude announcements by saying that even though there is nothing on our agenda today that deals with the proposed construction of a new central building, we're not ignoring the petitions that have come in urging us to pause in that planning. I have a copy of 10 of those pages here, and so that will be on, I believe, next month's agenda. And that's the end of my announcements, but I'd like the Secretary to report on our executive meeting minutes, if you would, please.
There are a number of meetings to report on because of our hiring of our new executive director. September 17th, the board met in executive session with everybody present, including myself and Patricia Arnold, and as well as Andrea Altman from the Architectural Committee and a homeowner. There was an architectural enforcement issue that was discussed and action taken regarding. There were also delinquent accounts that were discussed, and the board took action to direct our company, Pro Solutions, to put liens on those judgments that have been obtained against certain residents, owners. There was further discussion at that meeting regarding the selection of the new manager for the association, and there was a schedule set up for their interviews, including to take each one on a tour of the neighborhoods, to vet the candidates, to conduct these interviews, and to take them to lunch and hold receptions, etc. So that meeting concluded with an announcement that the executive committee would meet October 1st to take up the issue of the selection of that best candidate for that position. The board met again September 23rd in executive session, as well as met on September 26th and September 30th. On each of those dates, all the board members were present, along with myself and resident George McKinney. The two of us, Mr. McKinney and I, made up the vetting committee for these candidates. The meetings came to were called to order at 1:45 p.m. and in each case there was an interview conducted of one of the candidates. And the meetings were each concluded right around 4 o'clock. Finally, there was a meeting on October 1st at which we all now know that the executive committee met and decided on to make an offer to Cassie Turner, which had turned out to be a successful negotiation. And the board at the same time discussed the terms of that offer, and at the same time, on a motion made and amended by Ellen George and Herm Hess, the board voted to authorize President Taylor to engage Ted Thronson to serve as interim manager until Ms. Turner came aboard at approximately November 1st. We hopefully she'll come sooner. That meeting adjourned at 4:15 p.m. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome. Go on then to ratification of two items taken outside the board meeting. The first is the President's authorization to employ James Ernst Accounting to do both the audit of our finances for the year 2013 and to prepare our tax return. The audit fees are $5,400. The tax return fees are $500. Action was taken on this on the 1st of October in order that they could get started with the work that needs to be done in order to meet our publishing deadline. This is the same firm that has been handling the audits and the tax returns for the OVA for more than 10 years. I appreciate a motion to ratify this contract for a total of $5,900. Moved by John Felton, seconded by Herm Herman. All in favor? Aye. The second is when we realized that the bid for the paving work of the west parking lot was well below the estimates and the recommendation by the Finance Committee. We asked the Finance Committee to look at approving the work for doing the pathways at west as well as the parking lot, and that came to a total of $14,770. Action to approve that was taken so that it could done while they had equipment on site, and that work was completed in conjunction with all the parking lot work. So in conjunction with the Finance Committee recommendation, item 8D, I'd like a motion to ratify the Siri additional contract for $14,770. Herm Herman, second by Fran Diaz. No discussion, all in favor? Thank you. We now have the consent calendar. There are a couple of, I think, significant appointments in the consent calendar in item D1 and D2. I think we'll be well served by having Tom Woodrum fill the vacant space on the Finance Committee. And I know the Emergency Preparedness Committee strongly recommends Pat Barkley taking on the co-chairmanship, along with Leanne Smith taking on the secretary's appointment. Certainly appreciate that kind of contribution to the community. I have a motion to approve the consent calendar. Moved by, excuse me.
I have a question on the October 1st minutes of the executive session. Our minutes name all three candidates, and I'm wondering if that should be a public record.
I don't believe our executive sessions are a public record.
That's correct.
That's the purpose of having the secretary report the way they did today. We have a motion to accept the consent calendar. You did it already? I ignored it. I'm sorry. Herm and Fran, thank you. Get me back to the starting point here. All in favor? Aye. Consent calendar is adopted. Thank you. Chuck, can we have the treasurer's report, please?
For the month of September, we had revenue of $172,000 with expenses of $208,000. So for the month, we had a deficit of $36,000. On a year-to-date basis, revenue of $1,535,000, which is 7.5% better than budget, and expenses of $1,413,000, which is 1% better than budget, leaving us a year-to-date surplus of almost $121,000. The transfers to the various funds are all equal to or better than budget, with the developer from the Orchard providing $488,000 for the sale of 33 new homes in the Orchard. The cash balances, operating fund $572,000, asset replacement $1,460,000, capital improvement $1,287,000, and catastrophe $98,000, leaving a total of $3,416,000. On a quarterly basis, I need to report further. It's a requirement for the board to review the status of the asset reserve fund at least quarterly and report to the residents. For 2013, the monthly transfer was to be $33,786. We have transferred that exact amount each month and will continue for the rest of the year. It's also a requirement to review the bank reconciliations quarterly. I have reviewed the bank reconciliations by CFM and have verified the amounts to the balance sheet and bank statements. And also quarterly, I'm to report our cash position for all funds in total. All funds are fully FDIC insured. We have several CDs totaling $1,725,000, earning between 12 and 83 basis points. We have several savings accounts totaling $1,583,000, earning between 10 and 20 basis points, and the rest is in checking accounts. Any questions on any of that? Can I have a motion for the board to accept the report?
I move.
Moved by Herm to accept.
I was just going to comment on how much money and interest we're making on these accounts.
Wow, isn't that great?
Seconded by Evelyn George. All in favor of accepting the report? I'd like to add a supplementary comment to the treasurer. The deficit that is reflected in September, for those of you who may be interested, is because there were costs associated with searching for a new manager, and there were costs for severance with the departing manager. And those were essentially September expenditures. Not 36,000, but a substantial portion of that. Treasurer, would you like to go ahead with the Finance Committee recommendations?
Yes, there's several different ones. The first one being from originating with the Architect Committee. There was an approval given for a resident to eventually build a front yard fence, and it was kind of hidden in the plans. The committee didn't exactly notice that. There was a subsequent complaint, and the committee and the Finance Committee recommends that we reimburse the owner $820 for the removal of the fence.
Thank you. And we'll act on that when we get down to a new business. Chuck, do you want to go out and describe the other recommendations?
Okay. The next is the bocce ball courts. The bocce ball committee came to the Finance Committee with their plans. They recommend two different companies to do the work, one to do the underlying foundation type for the courts, and another company to do the surface work. The cost of the two combined is $71,000. We do have some funds available from certain lines on the ARF, but not totally on those lines, but certainly there are adequate funds within the ARF, so the Finance Committee again recommends that to the board to approve this.
Thank you. So all of it could come from the Asset Replacement Fund?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next one is a smaller project, the men's central sauna. The benches in the sauna are apparently splintering and in very bad shape. And we don't want to have the staff standing by with tweezers to remove the splinters. So the Finance Committee recommends spending $1,000 to replace the benches and in turn pull the wood up from the floor, leaving a concrete floor. The next, as we've already discussed, is the pathways at the West Wreck, and it was very economical to go ahead and resurface the pathways as they were doing the parking lots. And the last is to purchase an automatic chemical system for the West Wreck pool that monitors the chlorine on a continuous basis as well as the other chemicals and disperses those into the water. The thought is that this will save quite a bit over time on the purchase of chlorine, as well as it'll save a tremendous amount of staff time. So the Finance Committee recommends spending $3,400 to purchase the chemical system for the West Pool, and later on, if it is successful as we anticipate, then we'll come back with a recommendation for both the East and the Central Pool.
Thank you. And that can come out of ARF, it doesn't have to come out of capital?
Yes, out of ARF as well.
Thank you. Thank you for those reports. As has been our practice in recent months, in addition to having written reports from committees, we're asking select committees to give us more detailed reports about their work and their recommendation. And this month, we're going to hear about the report and recommendations of the Long Range Planning Committee. We need to have the screen down from behind me. Isn't that magic? And Tony Lackowitz will make that report. We'll even turn down the lights for you, Tony.
Excellent. Thank you very much. My name is Tony Lackowitz. I am a resident of Bellhaven Place, and I'm currently the chairman of the Oakmont Long Range Planning Committee. I thank the board for allowing us time on your agenda today. What we'd like to do is give you, as you can see, a PowerPoint presentation on a proposed long-range plan for Oakmont. Why do we need a long-range plan? Well, we have a long-range planning committee and we need to give them something to do. That's one of them. But seriously, our committee, I've been a member of the committee for a little over a year, and since getting on the board, we've been talking about the need for a long-range plan because, first of all, there isn't anything in writing right now that tells us who we are, what we're doing, and where we're going in the foreseeable future. So since last year, we've been looking at and talking in-house and with select committees and individuals out of our immediate jurisdiction about preparing a plan and what it would do and would it do us any good. Here we are in beautiful Oakmont. The aerial view obviously shows the mountains to the north, the Hood Mountain, beautiful Annandale State Park to the south, and nestled right in between among the vineyards of Sonoma Valley, the Valley of the Moon, is Oakmont. We just finished the 50-year anniversary. We've been around a half century. What are we going to be like 50 years from now? Does anyone know? I don't know. However, there are things that we can do to assure that future residents who will be living here that what we have now, a little bit of paradise in some opinion, remains, doesn't get any worse. Hopefully, we might even be able to improve upon it. Since last year, our long-range planning committee has been bouncing a lot of questions around. You don't just go out and prepare a long-range plan. First of all, you have to know what it is, what does it do, what things should it include, can we get along without one? We've been doing quite well for 50 years. Who benefits? Will it save us money? Who will use it? How will it be prepared? How will it be adopted or amended? We don't want it to be a static document. It's got to be flexible, and it has to be flexible to allow for future decisions that we can't foresee. And finally, how far into the future will it look? We don't have all of the answers for all of these questions, but our committee feels that we're at the point now where a long-range plan would be advisable, and we're here today to make our recommendation and hopefully get your support. But before we get to that point, let me explain a little bit. Okay, I'm good. Why do we need a long-range plan? Number one, we have a board and many committees that are, some are elected and appointed for a year or two, and then there's a turnover. What we need is greater continuity. I don't know what's coming from us to know what's going on. We need greater.
Can you borrow one of the handhelds or the wired mics?
Is this working? Okay, we'll get away from the cha-cha and get back to a microphone that works. Again, greater continuity so that from board to board, our priorities and our programs and projects are recognized, and they're not subject to change every year. We get a new decision maker. It will help the board prioritize the expenditures. As you know, we may not be getting the impact fees that we did in the past, so we need to look a little bit more closely at our capital improvements in the future. It will reduce uncertainty. That's very important. We know from experience that many people who live here don't attend all of the meetings. Some of them read the newspaper and some go online, but we still think that more people should be involved and know what's going on so that they're not afraid of the future and they're not so critical of committee decisions which have to be made. The plan will also coordinate board and committee decisions so that Committee A knows what Committee B is doing, and the board is aware along with everyone else who lives here. Most importantly, I think, it will involve residents in their own future. You may elect a board or see committees being appointed, but really this is your place. This is where you live. This is your community. And you need to be involved and have a say in how we operate, how we look, and what we're all about in the future. If nothing else, then a plan is written down and has facts and figures and is a central source for information so that we're all informed. Now, who will prepare it? All of us. Not the committee, not the board, but everyone. This will be your plan. We're proposing a grassroots type of effort to get people involved. Even if they only do one thing or attend one meeting, they're involved and they know what's going on. If the plan is adopted, it's your plan. It's not something that somebody else did for you. And if you don't like it, it's your own fault. We will encourage residents to attend community forums that will be held on different subjects throughout the year during the preparation of the plan. You can always email your comments to the planning committee as we go along, but there'll be more information in the news or the website to let you know what we're doing and how you can participate. What will be in it? Number one, we'll have a vision. The vision is probably the most important thing we'll do in this plan. We need a clearly defined mission statement of what we are and who we are, our vision of the future, what are the values that we hold most important, and what are the goals that we have to achieve that vision. So number one, you can see in the next couple of months we'll be having articles on preparing a vision of the Oakmont of the future. What do we want to be? What is our target? What is the end goal of the plan? Challenges of the future, that'll be a summary chapter that provide a synthesis of all of the information and recommendations that we find during the preparation of the plan itself. There'll be a chapter on implementation. How do we get to where we're going? What do we have to do to make it happen? And finally, there will be 8 functional elements, or chapters as we call them, on different phases of Oakmont life. The functional elements will be services and facilities. A service is what the staff does for us, or the maintenance people. A facility is the Burger Center or West Rec. There'll be a chapter, an entire chapter on the golf course. And it will look at scenarios to include what happens if the golf course fails. What happens if they can't make a go of it? What happens if they run out of water? What happens to that land that everyone, half of us look out our backyards at? A chapter on safety, economic conditions, in conjunction with the facility of the Finance Committee and the Treasurer. We'll try to project economic health for the community in the future. Land use, we have right now over 50 acres of OVA-owned land, almost half of which is vacant and it's vacant and developable. It's not a creek or a swamp or anything. We have quite a bit of unused land. We need to come up with a plan of how that's going to be used and or protected. There's a chapter that I've highlighted in red on open space and recreation. It's highlighted because we just completed a preliminary draft of open space and recreation in response to a request from John Taylor and the board to look at recreation facilities and pickleball included. So I can answer questions about that in a minute. Demographics, how many people live here, we know that, but we don't know their precise ages. We don't know if we're getting younger or older, and we need a clear picture of not only the Oakmont of the future, but the Oakmont resident of the future. And another chapter that was just recently recommended is called Community Aesthetics. What do we look like? Are we a pretty well-designed, well-landscaped place, or are we not taking care of our appearances? Will the plan be binding? No, it can't be. The plan will be advisory to the OVA Board of Directors. This is a requirement of the state law. No recommendation of a committee can be binding upon the OVA board. It's even in our OVA bylaws. But we feel if the plan is written well enough that it should speak for itself and be followed by the Board of Directors, at least as a guide to their future actions. How will it be used? How will the board use it? We think it'll help you make major decisions to ensure that they are consistent with the plan. We know that in the past, proposals have been made that people haven't been keeping track of, they don't understand, and when it gets very late in the game, there are charges that we're rushing into things. Writing new proposals for major decisions into the plan will help alleviate that, and will give the board a better leg to stand on when making major decisions. We think it should be reviewed annually because situations change. We'd like the OVA board to make an annual report on the plan with our help and the staff help. And at that time, if it needs updating or corrections or we have new information, then we should write that into the plan. But at any rate, a 5-year comprehensive plan is called for, where we look at the whole thing and decide what we want to do with it. We visited Rossmore, which is a active adult community in Walnut Creek a couple of weeks ago. We went on a field trip, and they have a plan that they adopted, and they do this 1-year review and a 5-year update, and it helps. It keeps the plan at the forefront. People don't forget about it. It doesn't just sit on a shelf and collect dust. What will it cost? We think we can do it for a minimal cost. I can't give you a number right now, but we're not proposing that we hire outside consultants. We are hoping that, and we believe that there are enough talented and motivated people in Oakmont that we can use to help us write this. We may have incidental costs for public opinion surveys, for example, printing, website use. But again, getting back to Rossmore in Walnut Creek, they hired an outside consultant and someone to do a public opinion survey. Their total cost for the preparation of the plan was over $100,000. We can build a lot of pickleball courts for $100,000. How do we start? We're asking this board to pass a resolution endorsing the preparation of the long-range plan. We are reluctant to begin major work on the plan without that endorsement because we need your support. We need to know that you're behind us, that you will cooperate. We know the staff will cooperate. And we're also asking the various committees in Oakmont to help us prepare this as required. We're going to be making extensive use of the OVA website, and we may want to tinker around with that a bit. And also, we plan a series of at least, hopefully, monthly news articles on our progress in the OVA news. If you want to help, there will be plenty of opportunity. We're looking for people to volunteer. We're not looking for people specifically to join the long-range planning committee. I know that's a major commitment of time, but if you have a talent, if you're a writer, you don't mind taking on a little research project, help us out doing some public opinion surveys. If you have talents in graphic design, we could use a lawyer or two on our staff, if I may use that term, someone to research the census to tell us what the demographics are for Oakmont residents. And also, if you're on a committee, work with us. Let's get together and talk about what your committee can do to become a part of the plan. This is your long-range planning committee as it's currently constituted. We are a 9-member committee. Ellen McClintock is our representative to the Finance Committee. So we do have 3 vacancies right now, and we're interviewing a couple of people for those vacancies. But again, you can either look to be a member of our committee and commit a good portion of your time, or you can just help us out on a task basis. This is how you get in touch with us. We all live in Oakmont. You can email us to that address. There's always, it's in every issue of the Oakmont News. You just look it up and send us an email. You can put letters in our folder in the office. You can attend our meetings, which are the 4th Tuesday at East Rec, or watch for future OVA news articles. And hopefully we will be able to inspire you, and we won't scare you away with too much work and too much confusion. That is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. And if we could just put the light on, I will take questions, of course, but before I do that, I just wanted to mention that one of the functional elements of our plan has already been completed, and that was the section on recreation. We prepared that and sent it to the OVA board a couple of weeks ago, and I believe you all have it. I don't think it's on the website. In fact, I know it's not. Maybe it should be. But what we did is, after talking to John Taylor, we conducted an inventory of existing recreation facilities in Oakmont. We examined the adequacy of these facilities. We got usage statistics where they were available, and we made recommendations for improvement. This is the so-called pickleball study, but among our recommendations, we found there are a lot of things that Oakmont is doing right and a lot of things that we could improve upon for our recreation activities and facilities. Number one, we did recommend that a permanent pickleball facility be constructed on the shuffleboard courts outside the central rec here. But we also have a number of other findings and recommendations beyond pickleball, which I would just briefly list. That Oakmont is getting younger and more active. With the boomers coming in over the next several years and beyond, we think there'll be an emphasis on more active recreation needs. Some of the recreation facilities that were recommended and that other communities are doing, 55 and older communities are doing, include basketball, softball, dog park, opportunities for grandchildren to play. So what we've recommended, and I'll just go through a couple of bullets. The community garden is very popular and needs to be expanded. The library at Central Rec here, is doing quite well. It does not need an expansion right now, but it may in the future, and we don't want to get to the point where it's overcrowded. The fitness center is the most actively used recreation facility we have, and it's in danger of growing too fast and outliving its designated floor area. That could be expanded into room B next door at some point in the future. We need more indoor exercise space. The West Rec just won't handle it. Perhaps the Burger Center could be used for indoor exercise classes that are not of an active nature. Very important to protect our access to Annandale State Park. We've already lost one access recently. There's been discussion about difficulties to protect the access that goes by the church and down to Channel Drive through Wild Oak. Perhaps that is in danger. We don't know what's going to happen to the access behind the community garden and over the brook to Channel Drive. If somebody has an assurance that that access is safe, I'd be very happy to see that, but I don't think we're at that point yet. Remember the second slide, Annandale to the south? Right now we have 6 access routes to Annandale. If we lose 2 more, we're going to be in trouble. We ensure, we're recommended that the bocce courts be upgraded. They're just as important as pickleball. They're heavily used, they're very popular. They've been there for a long time, and they're in a deplorable state of repair. We don't think that the game field exercise stations are needed anymore. That's the trail behind to the west of the West Rec, where there's a trail with, you know, the park course it's called. It's a game field exercise station. That's what it's called officially. So I know that's a lot of information all at once. I've probably gone over my allotted 15 minutes, but at this point I will thank you for the opportunity to make the presentation, and I will entertain any questions first from the board if you have them.
John, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the Long Range Planning Commission's plans to finalize their program in the interest of submitting to the board for final approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Are you referring specifically to their draft resolution that you have in your package?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to mention, along with seconding this, that I read the report and thought it was exceptional, and it's what we needed. And all cities in California are required to have general plans. So it's the logical thing for us to move ahead at this time.
True, cities, municipalities are required to have their plans. Oakmont is not an incorporated city, so we don't have one for whatever reason.
Why not?
I totally agree.
I just wanted to comment on the, what I felt was an excellent report, and I just hope that we do approve this and that they can go forward with all of our full support.
The draft resolution that they have asked us to adopt, for those of you in the audience who don't have it, reads, "The Board of Directors of the Oakmont Village Association hereby endorses and supports the preparation of a long-range plan for Oakmont. The Oakmont Long-Range Planning Committee shall prepare this long-range plan. The Long-Range Planning Committee shall, as contemplated by the OVA Board, have no budget at this time and no authority to incur costs on behalf of its mission or in the name of the Oakmont Village Association. The OVA Board of Directors will, however, consider the question of a budget for the Long Range Planning Committee's effort upon submission of a request for future expenses, which provides a full description of the nature and purpose of such expenses. The Long Range Planning Committee will have OVA staff support through the manager's office. Incidental and reasonable expenses such as photocopying or use of the OVA website or OVA news shall be provided without charge to the Long Range Planning Committee. Any other comments or questions?
I just have a quick question, Tony. What would you think would be the timeline for developing the first complete package of, are we talking a year, 2 years, or?
We're hopeful to do it within 1 year, with the holidays coming up and whatever. It looks like the end of 2014 would be our initial goal.
Comment. I would like to recommend, I'm going to assume that we're going to support you, but one thing that I think is very necessary is that you work directly with the board. At this time, we do have some goals in place. Our goals should concur with your goals. And that's where there should be a combination of efforts so that we're all on the same page, because we have tremendous projects that are, on our agendas coming forth and in our needs to improve the projects that we have.
Agreed. That's exactly where we're going to start when we start doing the goal statement and vision. Would be with your goals. They may change. I'm not going to say that they won't, because we're going to ask for public input. They may be expanded or whatever, but we're definitely going to start with them.
I'd like to call the question.
All in favor? Unanimous with support.
Excellent.
Thank you really for the excellent presentation, and I know you don't claim full credit. I think the PowerPoint work was done by Jim Omet.
Jim Womet is not here. We have other members of the committee in the back. Raise your hand, Larry, Frank, and Wendy. Jim is not here.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Question, yes.
You're not shy.
Yes.
Tony, if you are incorporating in your long-range plan a plan for a pickleball court over by the shuffleboard, which
Yes.
I agree shuffleboard is not played, could I ask that the petanque courts be considered at the same time? We are the only sport in Oakmont that never asks anything from the board, and we do need a rework of our courts. And it could be a part of your pickleball over there, if that's the location you choose.
I see no reason why not. In fact, our report said, don't touch petanque. It's very popular. It's not the most heavily used sport or facility in Oakmont, but you guys love your sport, and we think the pickleball can be put in there without any disturbance. Don't take away, okay. All right, it's not my decision, but our recommendation is don't take it away.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I apologize, but back on item 8, committee recommendations, where we're getting a report from our finance, from our treasurer, I'd just like to ask them, okay, all these expenditures that we're doing for like the bocce ball courts and stuff like that, they've had to be in excess of what we had paid in the past. Has our ARF been, have we saved this information to update our ARF in the future?
Yes, we met with Ted and John, and I met this one day last week, I guess it was, and we're doing an additional update on the ARF, and including all this, but we have adequate money for all of it.
Yeah, no, I know you said we do now. I'm just looking for the future, because I know we didn't spend $80-something thousand 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm keeping a cash flow looking out to the end of 2015.
All right, thank you very much. I apologize.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda takes us to new business. Item 10A is in keeping with the Finance Committee's recommendation that we reimburse the resident for the expense of removing a fence that was authorized inappropriately to be put in. That's an amount of $820 to that resident. I have a motion for that recommendation? Moved by
I'll
Evan,
second.
seconded by Herm. Any discussion? All in favor?
I have a question regarding the same subject. Did we learn anything from that to prevent a reoccurrence in the future?
Yes, the report from the architectural committee indicates the steps that they've taken to try and have a clearer view of what's involved in the plans submitted by residents. The next item has to do with Oakmont's involvement in this year's New Year's Eve celebration. Jim, do you want to comment on what you think is appropriate in this situation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As you know, Oakmont's been putting on a New Year's Eve dance now for, I can't remember how long, and they've asked years ago for the dance club to manage it and put it on for the OVA. It is an OVA event, it's not a dance club event, all right? In that light, though, in the last several years, with the membership that we've had and the attendance that we've had, we were able to accrue money in the dance club in order to completely finance the New Year's Eve party through the dance club. However, in recent times, attendance at the dance club events have dwindled, and our kitty, so to speak, our funds that we have available are not as plentiful as they have been in the past. And so what we're asking for is to help us finance with the entertainment portion, if you will, for the New Year's Eve dance. And the dance club is then going to be taking care of everything else.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Jim, it was my understanding that the dance club, this was obviously a rumor because the policy of it being open to all Oakmonters was not made clear to me. I was told that only those members of the dance club were permitted to attend. That might be one of the reasons why your attendance is down. And I'm serious, I'm not being facetious when I say that.
Okay, now you talking about the dances throughout the year or the New Year's Eve party?
The New Year's Eve party.
Okay, the New Year's Eve party is an OVA event. That's open to all Oakmont members, all OVA members. And if you'll look at the pricing in the last years, there's been no distinction between an OVA member or a dance club member because it's open to all OVA members. However, dance club events that we hold, we charge non-members of the dance club $5 extra to help build up the kitty so that we can finance as much as we can come to New Year's.
I just suggest that a clarification be made with your announcement that goes out in the Oakmont News that this is an open event for all Oakmonters.
Okay, I think that's what it says each year, but we'll verify that statement for the OVA. We'll do that.
Thank you.
And so can you help us with a specific amount of money that needs to be authorized by the board?
Well, right now we're looking for $600. That's what we asked for last year to help us break even. Our entertainment for that night is $1,200. And so we're asking for 50% coverage. And then the dance club will try to cover the other 50%.
Would you be making a motion that the OVA support the New Year's Eve event to the tune of $600 for their budget?
That is correct.
Second? I'll second. Any more discussion?
There was a question in something attached to here whether it had to do with whether or not we wish to continue sponsoring this New Year's Eve party. I mean, I think we do, but...
Herm, I believe that's a question I posed because I didn't want to be presumptuous. I just said,
okay,
this is what we've done in the past, this is what we did recently. Do we want to continue doing that? It was just I just wanted to verify.
I think we should, yeah, okay.
Call for the question. All in favor of $600 to support the New Year's Eve entertainment? Thank you. And item 10C involves repurposing the Chickering piano that's now being stored at the East Recreation Center. It's been a storage situation for almost 3 years now due to the fact that it turns out that it's a beautiful piece of furniture but its aging insides do not permit it to function the way we would want to have it function for a choral group or what have you. Staff has been looking for sources that could make some kind of use of it. They have identified a man, Mr. Greg Rogers Martin, who repurposes this kind of donation for student musicians. They only ask that any cost of removing it be underwritten by the person donating it. And so the cost of repurposing this Chickering piano would be $200 to Mr. Martin's organization to remove it to San Rafael. Is there a motion to do that?
I so move.
Moved by Jim, seconded by
I'll second.
Herman.
With a question, what is this group that it's going to?
Mr. Greg Martin is a supporter of an organization that repurposes this kind of equipment for the use of student musicians in learning to use the piano.
So we don't know exactly where it goes.
We do not know the exact location. It's a generalized donation, not a specific location.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just address the fact that you and I talked about this probably about 18 to 24 months ago on accepting gifts, for lack of a better term. And we do have a policy regarding that, but I would like for us to kind of go back and re-look at that, maybe shore it up a little bit. You and I had some discussions about.
I'll add that to the agenda.
Because, you know, it was nice that somebody gave us this, but I think if we'd have done a little bit better inspection, we'd have realized that the piano in its current state when it was given to us was really of no value to us.
I agree.
All right?
Call for the question. All in favor? Thank you. We can now go to unfinished business, and probably the most important thing we have to do on today's agenda is adopt a budget. Well, the screen is down.
Okay, we'll project the budget, well, go up to the top, obviously, right? And this is exactly the same budget that we looked at last month's meeting. It represents a 50-cent per month per person dues increase. And since we talked about it in some detail last month, I don't anticipate doing that again. But certainly if anybody has questions as we go through it kind of rapidly, stop me and we'll talk about it. And I'll just go through and talk about some of the accounts that we need to focus on a little bit in particular. The very top one there, the owner's assessment, that's the dues. The amount that we're showing here does represent the 55 or 55.50 dues per person, except for those that paid the impact fee in advance for the new CAC. And it does represent an increased population based on the finishing of the orchard homes, as well as just our general population seems to be increasing as well. Okay, go on to the next page, go ahead and go through all the revenue, go down to the transfers. And the one that we probably need to spend some time on is the transfers to the ARF, which is about the same as last year, slightly reduced. This is what's called for in the asset replacement reserve, but I propose that we skip that for the moment and go through it and come back to it.
Okay.
Okay, go on to the next, starting on the expenses. John and I had a meeting with our insurance broker a week or so ago, and some of the rates are coming down a little bit. We won't know until January what our actual rates will be for the new calendar year. But earlier we were anticipating as much as a 20% increase, and she says on some of the larger ones, the casualty and liability in particular, that it probably will only increase about 10%. So we could take it down by about $4,300 if we want to. We also have this on an Excel sheet so we can make changes as we go and see what the end result is, because we do need to approve this today.
The numbers that you have up there is what she originally gave you.
Yes.
And then you had a follow-up discussion with her, and she's saying, well, it might not go up this.
Right, yeah, originally she was saying 20%, and now she's saying it's closer to 10% is what they're saying.
Okay, but she's not guaranteeing 20.
Oh,
10%.
absolutely not. No.
Right. For our purposes, I'd leave it where it's at, simply because you want to keep
I
it covered.
agree.
Because any money that we have left over, we always kick over to the
That's
ARF
right.
anyway.
We make use of it.
Okay, moving on. Go on down to the salary. Okay, with the hiring of our new manager and the package now complete, we could reduce that amount, the admin salaries, by $4,000 if we want to. Okay, going on. Go down to grounds, repairs, and maintenance. The landscape other, we projected the projected amount was the June year-to-date times 2. Since then, we've had to do another high weed mowing because we had the freaky rainstorm in June. So our September year-to-date is actually $36,000 that we've spent as opposed to the almost $18,000 that we've projected. So, you know, we don't know next year, obviously, if we're going to have any summertime rain or not. The $20,000 would certainly be adequate to cover a typical year, but it was not adequate enough to cover this year. So if you want to, we could increase it by $16,000 or we could leave it as it is.
I would like to suggest that we consider increasing it $10,000, Chuck, based on the last recommendations from Patricia Arnold relative to the work, particularly that they focused some extra attention on at the west, beyond the walking path area.
Right. Okay.
The indication was clear that we've done extra this year and we need to do more as far as next year is concerned.
Okay, so Mike, yeah, take that to $30,000.
Well, that's my suggestion. I'm wondering.
I agree.
Board have. Thank you.
No, no. Yeah. Okay, Mike, go backwards to. No. Go on, go on.
Go forward more. We'll get to it.
Okay, 53050. Okay, this is the amount for the contract with Scandia, $18,000, which is just slightly above the current year budget of $17,500.
I just reviewed the billing on 53050, and the consistent fee for maintaining that specialized service has been $13.75 a month for a couple of years. So I think that, give or take, 18,000 versus 16.5 is, or 17 is the ballpark we have to be in.
Okay, then going on down, yeah. Well, actually, just go on to the utilities.
What is the number on security camera monitoring, 54042, based on?
Evelyn, can you help out on that? That was the estimate that for monitoring the website on the camera.
That would only be for the UVerse bill that comes in from AT&T, and the quote that I had from them was $130 a month. So I don't know where that $6,000 comes from. I really don't. So is that a portion of what it costs for us to, no, that's just the monitoring.
And that was anticipating the other camera on the Pythian entrance as well.
Okay, so if that's thrown in there, we need to have that adjusted and get a confirmation by going back to our AT&T bills?
Or we haven't paid anything yet.
It's just a projection? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We still haven't paid anything yet.
Well, we can get a confirmation on what
Well,
it is.
we need to approve this today, though.
What amount do we need to approve?
Unless I look at a bill that should have come in from the first month, I won't even try to guess. But I don't think it would be that much.
And that's not a monitoring expense, that's a telephone service.
That's all it is. That's all it's intended to be.
What happens if we...
We have no fees for monitoring.
We don't, if we want them to look at, say, something that happened 2 days ago, they're not going to charge us for it?
You mean AT&T?
No.
Oh, no. The only people looking at it are our 4 internet technology guys and the police department. They're not charging us. Those are the only people who see the imagery. So we don't have a paid employee monitoring that. It is only reviewed when there is an event. Fortunately, we can go back historically if there is one. And as it happens now, when there is an event here of any proportion, the police department is calling me. And they're advising me, you know, that they're going forward with whatever investigation they need to have. I'm more than happy to receive it. There's a new detective now who's covering the...
So there's no maintenance cost on the system or anything like that?
No.
Could I suggest that we drop item 54042 and look to pay anything that might arise out of the contingency items that are in the budget?
Okay, change that to 0, Mike. Okay, going on down utilities, not a whole lot of difference there. And then going to close to the end, as John just pointed out, the contingency, we have about the same amount we had last year at $40,780, which is just to cover unknown things that you know, we can't foresee through 2014. So going on down to the bottom, we have a net loss of $4,000 now with the 2 changes that we made. So Mike, let's go back up to the transfers in the revenue section.
I'd like to go to the ARF when it's appropriate.
Yes, that's where we're going right now.
My colleagues on the board, I'd like to offer some observation about our ARF contribution. You know, I used to sit in the audience here and argue the point of view that we can save money here and save money there. But I have to tell you that getting more involved in the budget considerations and facing the kind of situation that we had surprise us at the East Rec Center, where $100,000 worth of expenses, the first $30,000 to clean up the mess that developed over 27 years, and now a $60,000 to $70,000 expense to repair it. You know, this kind of thing really hasn't been included in our ARF calculations, asset replacement calculations. And we also have been at a marginal percentage level of what the asset replacement funding could be. And I wouldn't be surprised if aging facilities at the west, as well as this one that we just had at the east, might get laid in our laps. And so I guess what I'm getting up to is I think we would be wise to add $100,000 to the ARF contribution in the budget for this year, from $405,000 to $505,000, just simply to recognize, as some of the correspondence that has come to us has suggested, that we're an aging environment and we need to be sure that we're calculating what's going to be required to keep these facilities clean and safe and up to date. So I guess I'd make a motion for the purpose of discussing the budget that we consider increasing the ARF contribution.
I will make that motion, but I have some comments on it too.
Motion made by Herm. Evelyn seconds it. Please go ahead with your comment.
Well, I think in the very near future, and this is I have a comment on something a little bit later as to what we should be doing for some of our next couple of meetings, including perhaps a special meeting in conjunction with our workshop. We need to sit down and actually start looking at exactly what our costs are going to be on these projects. We need to come to some decisions on these very soon. And in the process of coming to those decisions, we can find out along the line exactly what we need to do year by year by year to complete these projects and what it's going to take, what that's going to hit the ARF for. Because in addition to those projects, we still have the ongoing reserve study, reserve amounts that we have to do year to year to year. And I think we need to get our handle on this as soon as possible if we can.
I certainly agree with you, and I think one of the helpful tools that the treasurer has provided us is the spreadsheet that shows from the fourth quarter of this year through the fourth quarter of 2015 what our cash situation would be in the ARF if we had these kinds of expenses. So I don't think that's final. I think the discussion you suggest.
Well, that's the thing. Those numbers on that spreadsheet, while helpful, are not certainly final numbers by a long way. And we need to start looking at how we can finalize some of these numbers anyway.
Well, and just the length of the list of items is a little bit mind-boggling as well. Any other comments from members of the board?
I'm not sure what we're voting on there in the motion. You talked about increasing the asset replacement fund. I think you said accepting. This motion is only to make that change, and there'll be another motion to accept the budget when we're finished reviewing?
Yes.
Let me ground everybody that by increasing the ARF to $505,000 along with the other changes we talked about, it would mean a dues increase of $2.38.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment consistent with Herman's about some of the things that we're not certain about and what it's going to cost us. For example, the east rec deck. I don't have a very good figure right now as to what it's going to cost to put that back in shape.
Thank you.
Chuck, what's the 213? What's the other 25 cents from what's up there right now? Your increases that we've added, according to you, is $1.88.
In addition to the 50 cents that we've
In
already
addition to the
got.
50 cents, thank you.
Any other comments? Call for the question on this edition.
Are we going to, by passing this motion, are we approving a dues increase of $1.38? $2.38?
By passing this motion, we're talking only about the ARF increase from $405,000 to $505,000.
Right.
That clearly implies that we would be approving a dues increase of something over $2.
But that's going to be a separate motion.
Yes. Any other comments from Evelyn?
So we're looking at a compulsory increase if we approve this amount. It's a natural course of events. You're saying if we approve this amount to be moved, another $100,000 into asset replacement fund, that we will have an obligation to increase our dues by $1.88. It's a natural course of events.
Unless you pass some motions to reduce something somewhere else.
Right.
I'm looking.
Or we may even elect to increase something someplace else. So that's, you know, something to look at also.
Seeing no other comments, call for the question. All in favor of adding to the asset replacement fund $100,000 in the proposed budget? All in favor? The majority. Are there other proposals by members of the board to make changes in this budget that we just reviewed?
I would suggest that we at least think about rounding the $2.38 to something, either up or down.
How would you suggest doing it?
I hope people don't throw things at me, but I'd suggest increasing it to $2.50 and throwing it into the contingency.
Interesting, I already wrote that down. I think it's something that it's our responsibility to do that. And it's not, you say, well, I don't want to pay anymore. Nobody does, but no, we're talking about the cost of a couple, 2-3 trips to McDonald's. If you take your grandchildren, it's even higher.
How much more of a change would that require, Joe? While they're calculating that, you have a comment?
It would be slightly under 25 cents. Oh, man, no, excuse me, 13, or 9, about $12,000. Yeah.
So another $12,000 into the asset replacement fund,
yes,
to round it to $2.50 dues increase.
No, actually, it would be less than that. It'd be closer to 6,000, like we just took out of the. Okay. Oh, in the AR, if you said? Okay. Yeah, 512,000. So the
512,000 rather than 505,000.
Yes, 7,000.
Evelyn?
I think it probably is important that we point out to our residents, certainly those who are viewing and sitting here, that we now have a report from our seismic study. So there will be factors weighing into restoring the West Brick. It does not have to be torn down as we understand it, but there are a lot of expenses that will go into supporting that building, and we haven't a clue at this point as to how much that will cost.
So based on the information that we've received from the treasurer, the asset replacement fund entry in the budget would be a contribution of $512,000, and that will generate a dues increase of $2.50.
Correct, with the other two changes that we made.
Do I have a motion to adopt the budget as revised and described here by the treasurer? Moved by Herb Herman, seconded by John Feldman. Discussion? Call for the question. All in favor of adopting the budget? Evelyn, are you in favor or opposed? Thank you. I wasn't looking the right direction. Budget has been adopted. Thank you very much, Chuck. Thank you to the Finance Committee. Thank you very much, Nick. The next item is the Facility Signage Committee. At our last board meeting, Carol Cotton agreed to lead the effort to come up with an ad hoc committee that would address the question of developing new or revised OVA swimming facilities, sign design, and language that recommends how to say what we need to say in an attractive way and with less duplication. Since that meeting, Carol has solicited the participation of Valerie Halsey, Frank Batchelor, and Mark Rogers to work on that ad hoc committee. And in your board packet at item 11B, you have a description of their charter. Can I have a motion to adopt.
I'd just like to comment that Frank Batchelor's name is misspelled.
That's my computer typing error. Thank you. My apologies, Frank. Is there a motion to adopt this charter and membership of a Facility Sign Improvements Committee? Jim? Herman, yes? Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it says, develop a new or revised OVA swimming facilities. It's just for the swimming facilities or all facilities?
The proposal was just to look at the swimming facility.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to having it go farther.
I think the committee was anticipating all facilities, not just the swimming pools.
So we can strike the word signing and just revised OVA facilities.
Correct.
Thank you. So the revised language, develop new or revised OVA facilities, sign, design, and language. Recommends how to say what we need to say in an attractive way with less duplication. Call for the question. All in favor? Thank you for those that are volunteering. The second item that was discussed at the last board meeting and facilitated by Herman's work with the Architectural Committee was to appoint an ad hoc committee for architectural violation penalties. The charter for this committee would be to explore the needs, value, and hindrances associated with a disciplinary program for unresolved architectural violations, to prepare a penalty plan, to hold community input workshops, to develop an implementation recommendation for board consideration. And the membership would be the membership of the Architectural Committee, chaired by Andrea Altman and supported by Mary Ann Neufeld, Jean Whitridge, Jim Husby, Tom Rodella, Alexis Stratham, and Marjorie Noble. Do I have a motion to appoint this ad hoc committee with the charter as described? Appointed by Jim, seconded by Fran. Discussion?
Just a comment, they've already come up with a date for their first meeting on this subject of October, quick, Andy, help me, October 21st? 22nd, okay. So they are already starting on this.
No further discussion, call for the question. All in favor? Ad hoc committee is appointed. The next item implements the Finance Committee's recommendation to take care of the I don't have it. The sauna, yes, please. Thank you. I'll get back to my. It's a modest expense as far as the. Was it $100, Chuck, or $1,000?
$800. Oh, excuse me, $1,000, yes.
I missorted my copy in the. That's okay.
977.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to authorize the repairing of the men's sauna at the central facility for $1,000? Moved by John Felton. Second by Fran. Discussion? All in
Yes,
favor?
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at they're talking about the benches now. Are we going to do anything with the floor?
They're going to remove the wood floor and there's concrete underneath it, so they'll leave the concrete.
They're going to leave the concrete. Okay, let's see. They're not going to seal the concrete or put a tile down?
Apparently is Mark still here? Yes. Can you comment on that, Mark?
Yeah, we're actually getting...
Microphone, please, Mark.
We will be removing the floor and putting a clear seal coat, just like we did at the ADA restroom over at the West Rex.
Okay.
No further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Passed unanimous. And then the item 11E is authorizing the automated chemical system.
I move.
Moved by Herm Herman. Second. Herm Hess. For $3,396.33. As indicated, this would be a test installation to see if it provides us the value that we expect. Any discussion or questions? Call for the question. All in favor? Passed. Now we come to the pickleball development. Pardon me, bocce ball development. I'm really in trouble for overlooking bocce. Thank you. We have a recommendation for the expenditure provided by a combination of two suppliers for the bocce ball improvement. The first part by Action Courts and Greens for $23,900. And the second portion by Bocce Builders, who will be putting down the new surface for a total cost of $46,980. Is there a motion to proceed with these asset replacement funded repairs and improvements to the bocce ball?
So moved.
Moved by Jim Kaiser, seconded by Herm Hess. Discussion? Questions? Can anyone representing the bocce interests, or Mark, do you have any information? In just a month's time, between when we discussed this and today, the cost for Bocce Builders increased $3,500. And I'm wondering if anyone wants to comment about what happened between the preliminary information and this final recommendation.
Jim Huseby, for Eddings. I have not heard of any increased cost from Action Code. No, Bocce Builders of America.
I just was referring to the letter of August the 19th that said that the Bocce Builders cost would be $43,300. And in this package, their proposal is $46,980.
I have not seen that, so that's news to me.
Was there a change in the scope of work?
It appears not, but I only have the notes from that.
I think we had a total cost of around $71,500 or something like that.
Excuse me, there is an email here in the package from Eric Strad, and he says, "Hi Mark, attached is a revised proposal for the bocce cart work. There was some increase in the price of pressure-treated lumber, but I will honor the original bid."
Okay, that's for the
that has to underline.
structure.
Never mind.
I saw that too, Chuck. Thank you. I'm not opposed to doing it. I'm only wanting to be sure that we approve the appropriate amount of money and that we have the appropriate contractor oversight. Because although the Finance Committee recommends that the funding is appropriate, what we don't have before us and what we need to address is project management for this kind of activity. According to the association's expenditure policies, if we're going to spend over $25,000 on a project, you need to have someone who's accountable for managing that project. We can always defer to having our maintenance manager be the project.
Mark Rogers is, as indicated, that he would be supervising it.
Yeah, I've spoken to both contractors, and the $43,000 for bocce courts is the true number. There was an ad in there, or an alternative for retaining wall, which we won't be stepping into. So I will be working as project manager for that and coordinating all the pre-construction meetings and the final completion.
Thank you. How about an amendment to the motion to approve up to $71,000 with Mark Rogers to be the project manager?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we would be adjusting that amount. You just said that it would be reduced to $43,000. So with that contingency, that the contract be adjusted accordingly?
I wasn't suggesting, Evelyn, that we deal with any one of the two parts, but we just approve the whole project amount and not to exceed $71,000, but to add the provision that the project management would be a responsibility of the Mark Rogers to make sure we fall within that amount. Is that amendment acceptable to the motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Call for the question. All in favor? Thank you. Mark, can you tell us, is this a project that can still be done this year?
Yes, we have a projected start date of the week of Thanksgiving, or just after Thanksgiving. We're looking at a 2 to 3 week build, and I just had an email confirmation from both contractors today that their schedules for the rest of the year allow us to go ahead and do that.
Weather permitting?
Even with a little bit of weather, we can still go ahead and do that. That's that 2 to 3 week window that we can go ahead and get everything down.
Maybe the bocce club could have a New Year's Eve party.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the pickleball development.
Excuse me, John, you still got the chemical. Oh, no. Did you do the?
We did chemical.
Okay. All right. No.
Next, we have the pickleball development. John, you have a lead that you want to take on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. President. I would like to commend the efforts of the tennis club and the pickleball club on their efforts to work together. As Anita Eastland, the president of the pickleball club, has announced today, an agreement's been reached to allow temporary use of Court 4 at the East Recreation Center. This will accommodate 2 pickleball courts. This agreement with the tennis club is contingent upon receiving from the board of directors a commitment to build permanent pickleball courts at a future date. We've been notified with the long-range planning committee today that recommended that we commit to building pickleball courts. The timing of construction will be determined by budget and scheduling issues. Expenditures for permanent courts will first require a review of the finance committee. To cover the interim period, the pickleball club has requested the authorization of $1,100 to cover the cost of adding striping and nets to Court 4. Following discussion, where I could do it now, I'd like to present our proposal is 3 different motions. Would you like me to go ahead with the motions now? Or do we have some other discussion first, or how do you want to do this?
We'll discuss after we've got a motion.
Okay, the first motion, that the board of directors commits to build permanent pickleball courts when feasible.
Is there a second? Fran gives seconds. Discussion?
What was the motion again? When feasible?
The motion reads, the board of directors commits to build permanent pickleball courts when feasible.
just for, I don't know, I'm not trying to be contrarian here, but with the three motions that you're going to be presenting to us, this one here, I don't know, understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, or what we are going to accomplish. I mean, we already know what our prime directive is to provide recreational facilities for our members and our guests, and also in your, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, your third proposal, the board director shall establish an ad hoc committee to make recommendations for deciding and cost for a permanent pickleball court. So we're already going to do that. So I think that in itself shows that we're committed to doing it.
Well, we can do it any way we want. Let me read all three things that we'd like to accomplish so we can decide how you're going to break them up as a motion. I was asked to split them up separately to make it easier for the recording secretary to get everything. Anyway, the first item that we're trying to accomplish here is that the board of directors commits to build a permanent pickleball court when feasible. And the reason that's stated is because that's one of the requisites of the tennis club. Wanted to have it on record that we are going to do this and that this temporary situation would become permanent. So this commits the board to say, yes, we are going to do this. So that removes the concern that the temporary fix would become a permanent fix. The second thing, of course, would be to finance this, and therefore what it says is the board of directors authorizes expenditure of an amount not to exceed $1,200 for the purpose of purchasing nets and adding additional striping to East Rec Court 4. And finally, that the board shall establish an ad hoc committee to make recommendations for the citing and cost for permanent pickleball courts. That, by adopting these three commitments here, it allows us to move forward.
I have a question. Wouldn't it be better if you took a look? Wouldn't it be better if you took a look at each one of these and made a motion for each?
That's what I started. That's what I was starting to do, and we'll go back to that. I'm just pushing the reset button right here. I move that the board of directors commits to build permanent pickleball courts when feasible.
Question. I have a question on that. What is meant by feasible? You're talking about location, cost?
It has to do with all the stars lining up. We have the funds, and it's signed off by the finance committee, and the whole portion is that the board should not, at this point, commit to a specific date because we don't know what it is, and I'm not in favor of throwing darts.
Mr. Chairman, you don't have a motion on the floor, do you?
We have a
You
motion.
have it, all right. Do you mind if I talk generally? This pickleball situation, I think, has been, what should I say? Just a hurricane that has descended upon the council, the board, I should say, the board, excuse me. And it has caused a great deal of difficulty to know where we're going, at what time we would build courts. But I would like to remind everybody that actually we committed ourselves to building pickleball courts back in June when we put it on our goals. And I myself made that motion that we would build pickleball courts in our goal statement. But all of a sudden, a hurricane has descended upon this board as to when, where, and we need it now. One of our concerns was that we certainly should turn to the other sports elements in Oakmont who've been waiting 2 and 3 years to have their improvements made or damage to their courts. So consequently, the idea was we will get to it as soon as these other improvements are made. What has happened now is that, and I'm a member of the tennis club, our president came to us this past week and announced that we were going to give up one of our courts, that we would have painted stripes put on it in order so that you could start playing at the present time. This apparently was approved by this new planning board that we just initiated, and it also went to certain individuals in the tennis club. The club has never had it presented to them in general, nor did they vote on it. So our concern, of course, is that we're happy to share this with the pickleboard people so that they can play. But there is no end date as to when we would get our courts back. What I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is that unfortunately there has been such a hurricane of we must have pickleboard right now that we don't know where we're going or when and are we going to approve this, and if so, how long is it going to take? It really has not been handled through the board the way it was anticipated back in June. That's all I'm saying. We want that pickleboard court. We even have plans here that have been shared with us, architectural design for the pickleboard courts and the location. Does this mean this has been taken out of our hands?
I guess my comment would be, Fran, that I don't believe anything's been taken out of our hands, and I do appreciate the concerns and interests that tennis courts have, tennis club and tennis players have. But I think what's being proposed is an effort to move ahead, to try and get some resolution. And so I realize there's a motion on the table, but I'd like to suggest a slightly different approach, and it may lead to withdrawal of the motion. But we might consider authorizing for a period of 18 months the conversion of Court 4 at the East Rec Center for pickleball use, and authorize the expenditure not to exceed $1,200 to do the conversion of that court for striping and netting. To me, that kind of approach puts into a time frame the specific activity that will be necessary to then consider appointment of an ad hoc committee to develop a plan for permanent courts to hopefully be implemented in that 18-month period of time. Notwithstanding the question of A, the community's reaction to whatever kind of siting location is decided on, and B, providing for the budgeted resources once we know what kind of facility. But does that approach make any more sense?
Mr. Chairman, they've only asked for a year. Why are we giving them 18 months?
Fran, I guess I would just suggest that my experience in dealing with these kind of issues indicates that time is not quite that finite. We just need more, we need more time to accomplish things. Democracy doesn't move very fast.
Yes, but Mr. Chairman, at this point in time, I'd like to call a question to Mr. Felton's original proposed motion.
Board of Directors, the motion that's being called for is the Board of Directors commits to build permanent pickleball courts when feasible. All in favor? The motion passes with a majority. Then I'd like to make the motion that I just articulated, that we authorize the conversion of Court 4 at the East Recreation Center for a period of 18 months for pickleball purposes, and the expenditure not to exceed $1,200 for the purchasing of netting and adding striping to the East Court, and that those courts would be available for pickleball after 11 a.m. each weekday.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, thank you. Discussion?
Yes. As it was presently proposed, there was nothing in there about 11 o'clock. I do know that the courts are not used much after 11 o'clock, so it doesn't present much of a conflict. However, one of the complaints was that they couldn't play tennis if there were extra lines, and of course the nets would have to be moved around. It appeared to be that there was an agreement to turn over that one single court for this purpose. It doesn't mean it can't still be used for tennis. But I would be opposed to adding the 11 o'clock time there. If it's not being used, then there's no reason somebody can't use it.
Well, John, I just would point out this. I can't imagine a tennis game going on court 3 and a pickleball game going on court 4. There is just no way that tennis balls can be expected to avoid traveling over into court 4. So I think, we've got to make it possible for tennis to use those courts independent of obstruction by use of the pickleball court. And I don't think pickleball players would want to have tennis balls intruding on the pickleball game. So even though we're only dedicating, if we pass this motion, one court, we are impacting the use of 2 courts.
I'll withdraw my objection to the 11 o'clock time.
Well, I have a question. Now, wasn't this, correct me, Mr. Felton, wasn't this not a motion agreed upon by both the tennis club and the pickleball people?
That's what I understood, and that's what I based my presentation
Okay, so the
upon.
tennis club people playing tennis understood that they would be having pickleball being played in court 4 next to court 3.
Mr. Chairman?
Is that a true statement?
As I was told, I can't confirm anything other than the information I was giving that was accurate.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? I'm totally in favor of the motion as you read it, but I was trying to point out that that was the difficulty. The members of the tennis club never made any decision on this at all. It obviously was done by the officers or somebody without conferring with the tennis player.
Well,
So representatives of the tennis club did in fact though say that? Your officers?
I assume so, because they came forward and reported at our meeting that that this would be something that they had agreed to, but the members did not ever agree to this. So this is why I was very concerned about what your motion would be, and I think that our chairman has written something that will work, and I'm in favor of it.
Well, and I appreciate that, but I think you say it'll work from your point of view. I think Mr. Felton, he went out and did some research and got it from all parties. I mean, this is not something he came up with in the middle of a closet. So he got input from all parties concerned. And so if all of the other parties are agreed upon about this, I don't see why we have to sit there and limit pickleball till after 11 o'clock in the morning. I mean, they'd like to play early in the morning too.
Other discussion? Call for the question on the motion. All? On the motion that I made that provides for use of Court 4, the expenses to convert Court 4, and the provision that Court 4 would be used by pickleball only after 11 a.m. each day, was the motion that we're voting on. All in favor? Motion passes.
Mr. President, point of order. Who moved and who seconded that motion?
Herman moved it, and I seconded it.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to suggest that...
And I abstain.
So now that we have a temporary solution for an 18-month period of time, I think we need to move expeditiously to have a committee
Yes.
address the issue of permanent siting and the related planning and construction issues. So if we could have someone make the motion that the board of directors will establish an ad hoc committee for recommendations on siting, costs, and construction for permanent pickleball courts.
I so move.
I'll second that.
Moved by Fran and seconded by Herman. Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor? Motion passes. In order to facilitate that motion, I would like tennis club people, even though they're not involved in the actual site selection, to be on that committee. I would like pickleball people to be on that committee. I would like us to consider having petanque people on that committee. And so would you please all focus your attention on sending me your recommendations for those that can do the work that's associated, and we'll consider appointment of that committee at our next board meeting. Are there any other actions regarding pickleball that we need to take? Thank you. The final action item on the agenda is a resident appeal of the Architectural Committee's decision regarding planting on their property. It's unusual that we have an architectural appeal in public session, so let me describe this process. The residents who are making the appeal will be the first to present their comments to the board for consideration. The residents have provided a background packet for the board's picture of what the situation in dispute is. Following the residents' state of their appeal, the Architectural Committee spokesman will provide that kind of information on the Architectural Committee's rejection. And we put this at the end of the agenda so that the board can adjourn to executive session shortly after these presentations to deliberate on the presentations for and against this appeal. So, Noel, Connie, you want to go ahead?
Thank you, John. Noel Schwain, 338 Viramonte. In September, the Architectural Committee rejected our appeal for planting a windmill palm tree as a replacement for a previously removed oak tree.
You have to get it like a snow cone, correct?
Okay. See if this is better. The Architectural Committee had rejected our appeal for planting a windmill palm tree as a replacement for a previously removed oak tree. The oak tree was removed with all the required OVA and City of Santa Rosa permits. The reason given for rejection was that projecting growth and location of this tree and its impact on the surrounding neighborhood, the palm tree should not be approved. We are appealing that decision on the basis that the Architectural Committee acted beyond the scope of OVA policies by not following the guideline policy of applying the rules equally, fairly, and consistently to all homeowners. The reason is very nonspecific and subjective in content. I will direct my response to the 3 items stated by the committee. Regarding projected growth, during the appeal hearing, one committee member stated that the proposed tree was too tall and that according to her Wikipedia source, the windmill palm could grow to 66 feet tall. She neglected to read further on the 2nd or 3rd page that there, in her printout, or tell the rest of the committee that there's a variant that grows only to 16 feet tall. You have a printout from Monrovia plants in the packet that I sent to the board. Monrovia is the main grower, supplier of this windmill palm to the nurseries. It indicates how well suited this tree is for our location and shows a mature height of 25 feet to 30 feet. Researching further, the Sunset Western Garden book, which is used by most landscapers, gardeners, homeowners, as reliable authority, states that the windmill palm can grow 30 feet high and 10 feet wide. The oak tree that's being replaced was 65 feet high by 50 feet wide. Currently, the architectural guidelines do not have any height restrictions. There was a previous 25-foot height restriction, and that was removed in the current revised edition. Now, speaking about the location of the tree, the replacement tree is being planted in the same location as the removed oak tree. The front area of my house is approximately 30 feet deep by 41 feet wide, which allows more than enough growing room. And then the impact on the surrounding neighborhood, the size of the windmill palm is quite a bit less than the previous oak tree and therefore has less visual impact. As with anything in life, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. One committee member has stated he does not like palm trees. Not liking palm trees versus banning palm trees is a bigger issue. There should be objective facts as to the unsuitability of palm trees. There are examples of palm trees, including windmill palms, throughout Oakmont. It becomes very difficult to state that palm trees are not compatible to the aesthetic character of the Oakmont community, as was stated in rejecting our original application. None of the Architectural Committee handouts nor the guidelines and standards restrict planting palm trees. The guidelines and standards only state restrictions for eucalyptus and lines of cypress or redwood trees. There is even a palm tree planted on OVA property. I think that picture is in your packet too. That's at the East Rec Center. You also have several other pictures showing the variety of palms planted throughout Oakmont. The Architectural Committee also stated that palm trees are not desirable because they can harbor rats. The heritage oaks are worst offenders for the wood rats that are prevalent in this area. If rats were to take up residence in a palm tree, it's very easy to control by using a metal flashing around the trunk to prevent climbing. I have a sense that the Architectural Committee really felt that that there are some palm trees in Oakmont and through Santa Rosa throughout the area. I think it's the Mexican band palm that grows 60 feet to 100 feet tall. That probably is very inappropriate for the size of our lots and houses that we have here, and it wouldn't work. This tree it matches very well proportions in the neighborhood, so I don't think it would offend the sensibilities of anyone. So in conclusion, we request that the OVA board support our appeal and approve our application as submitted. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Noel. Yes. Tell us what, if anything, the city required in approving your permit.
In approving the permits, there was a fee to pay. Plus, if we weren't putting in replacement or a number of replacement trees, we had to pay them money, in which we did. We paid them money for all but one tree, which would basically, they would figure, would have been a 15-gallon sized tree. We have bought and we have actually planted the tree that we're requesting approval for, and that was in a 24 by 24 inch box. And but otherwise, we paid the city of Santa Rosa money to cover what trees we weren't planting.
Did the city require you to plant more than one tree?
No, we could have planted 0 trees. We just it was just a matter of paying them how much money we wanted to pay them.
Yeah. Let me say my question another way. Did the city require that you either pay money or plant trees?
Yes.
And they required, how many trees would you have to plant in order to not pay any money?
I'd have to look back on what we, 4 trees.
4. And I specifically asked members of the board, knowing that this appeal was coming up, to drive by your house. And obviously there are 2 palm trees planted there.
There's,
or what appear to be 2 palm trees planted.
there's a small, there's a sago palm. After we had the stump ground out and we moved plants around, so that's a sago palm, which is a very small plant.
How big does that one grow, the sago?
6 feet tall.
And did you make application to plant that one?
No, we did not.
I have a question. Did you plant the tree, the windmill tree?
Yes.
Before or after you were told that the architectural committee rejected your request?
After.
After.
We had already bought the tree. When we put in the application, before we even did the application, we were looked around Oakmont and trying to decide what kind of tree to put in. And we finally decided that this windmill palm was a nice suitable tree, very drought resistant, grows very well in this area, deer resistant. We saw many examples of it in Oakmont, and after we put in an application, we went to the nursery looking, and we found a nice specimen, and so we took the risk of buying it, and we took the risk of putting it in the ground just because to keep it alive and keep it irrigated properly. If it has to go out because we lose our appeals, then it goes out, but in the meantime, it was for the health of the tree that we planted it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So I just want to understand thoroughly that what you did was, even though you had been or not received permission to put the palm tree in place, you opted to do so in any case because you looked around and thought because there were others that this gave you permission to do yours as well? Is that what you felt?
Yes, that's what we felt.
Noel, if I may ask, did you consult the list of recommended trees that are in the architectural office?
Yes, I have that list, but that doesn't even cover any palm trees. It covers...
So it's not on the list of recommended trees?
Well, there's a list, I wouldn't say recommended trees, trees with fall color, trees with spring flowers, trees for small gardens. But it does not say that's recommended, or it doesn't say these types of trees, certain types of trees are not allowed.
Herb, last question.
Well, I just wanted to comment, Jim, that our tree policy does not say that these are the only trees that you can plant. It does not say that.
Then what's it say?
Can we get into this discussion?
It says, it has 4 pages. Do you want me to read all 4 pages? Because that's what it says. It says a lot of things, but it does not say anywhere that these are the only trees you can plant.
No, but it says here under section 4.1 landscaping trees, point A, lists of recommended trees are available in the AC office along with a handout on tree care and selection.
That's right.
All right, that's all I'm saying. So it tells you which ones are recommended.
They're recommended, but they are not mandated.
May I suggest that this is a discussion to go into after we hear both parties' appeal?
Well, I kind of disagree. The gentleman wanted, the resident wanted this done in open session, so we have to have it in open session.
I've got a comment here. Noel, I think I already know the answer to this. Are palm trees native to this area?
Well, as far as I know, they're not, but there are a lot of trees around here not native to this
I
area.
understand. I just wanted to hear that we agree on that.
Yes.
And you would also agree that there are palm trees in Oakmont.
Oh, definitely.
Well, if they're already here, then they're like grandfathered to be here. People planted those before without permission, therefore a precedent has been set, and I don't think that there's a case against you. That's my own opinion. Thank you.
I concluded, Noel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andy Altman, the chair of the Architectural Committee.
Scared me for a second. I thought you got me on finance.
You're on too many.
As residents, each of us in this room and throughout Oakmont are empowered to enforce our protective restrictions. Additionally, the Architectural Committee has more specific responsibilities spelled out in our governing documents. Our role is to help homeowners modify their properties while complying with the guidelines and standards. Our clients are the homeowners, but not just those who submit the applications, also those who live surrounding the applicant. We're also responsible for applying the rules equally, fairly, and consistently to all homeowners, while performing our major responsibility, as stated on page 1 of our guidelines and standards, to assure continuity of design and preserve the open space, which will maintain or improve the appearance and enhance the overall value of every residential property in Oakmont. In each case, application or complaint, we follow our guidelines and standards, as well as our policies and specific criteria that was established and adopted by the boards of directors before us. In this particular case, the OVA tree planting and removal policy was referenced. This policy was updated and adopted by the Board of Directors on April 15, 2008. And I quote, "Trees are a valued element of the appearance of Oakmont, and their planting and removal will create an impact on both the individual home and neighborhood as a whole. The Architectural Committee, in reviewing all home improvement applications for planting or removal of a tree, will consider each case on its own merits. The criteria considered in reaching a decision include, but is not limited to, the following. Under planting, will the proposed tree now or eventually block, screen, or dominate the applicant's yard or a neighbor's yard? Is the expected height or width of the mature tree compatible with the proposed location? Consider scale, proportion, visual balance, with the house and surrounding trees and dwellings. And under approval, an application to plant or remove a tree or trees shall be submitted to the Architectural Committee. In each instance, no work shall be done until the application is approved. Our practice is to request input from multiple members of our committee. If one member has questions, concerns, or reasons to not approve an application, in this case, the member who was assigned the application asked for input from all committee members after making the initial site visit. All members responded with the same opinions after individually visiting Miramonte over the next few days. We approach site visits from many angles. We do not only look at a tree or a shed or a fence and make a call based on how it looks or will act or grow. We must also consider where it's going relative to many things besides the city-enforced setbacks. We also visualize out a year, 5 years, and 15 years plus if growth is involved. The volume of tree work being done today in Oakmont is rising, and primarily due to age, selection, and placement of those trees. What each of us saw with our eyes in our future-looking experienced perspectives was a solitary palm tree standing in a vista for dozens, if not hundreds, of homes that look out towards Sugarloaf. This to us would qualify as dominating, and as a committee we would prefer to see another species dominate that landscape. This species grows to 30 feet and has been found to grow to 40 feet locally. Planted in the location selected, that places the crown and most of the frond-filled trunk far above the roofline of the home or homes in that neighborhood. We do not ban palm trees. We have approved the planting of palm trees in the past on residential property, and we have rejected trees other than palm trees on residential property. Palm trees at 30 feet plus are not common in Oakmont, although they do exist. and given there are extraordinary number of species that thrive in this valley, we considered this particular species planted in this particular location unacceptable when the visual balance with the house and surrounding trees and dwellings is part of the documented criteria which we are expected to employ. The Architectural Committee recommends supporting our decision to reject this species of tree at this location and requests that the homeowner remove the planted tree and replace it with one that, if it were to dominate this landscape, would be more in balance with the tall trees of Oakmont. We'd also like to make a note at this point that this decision will very much, based on what Mr. Felton has said, will very much affect any future decisions by the Architectural Committee. Thank you.
Anyone have questions of Andy? No? Any board member have questions of Andy? Thank you very much. Oh, excuse me.
I do have one question. I'm not a botanist. I don't even come close. And I don't mean to undermine what's going on. I'm just looking at pyramids in my own mind. Are there other palm trees in Oakmont that are the same kind as this one?
I believe there are, yes.
Thank you.
Also, I'd like to ask you a question or make a statement about the fact that simply because someone else does it doesn't give us the right in order to violate the rules. I mean, the only time the Architectural Committee gets involved is whenever you submit a request or a neighbor submits a complaint. Okay, our Architectural Committee and our board does not go around the community looking for violations. That's something that I wanted to enforce what Andy said earlier, was the fact, okay, it was a community enforcement that we're looking at of the rules and regulations. All right, so it's just not the Architectural Committee. So simply because someone else does it, just means that with the time, nobody complained about it. And it wasn't brought to the Architectural Committee's attention.
Thank you. I'll declare the hearing closed.
One more question, Andy. You say that other palm trees, the Architecture Committee has approved other palm tree installations in Oakmont, correct?
I believe. I was not able to find any of this particular palm species, but we have approved other palm trees in Oakmont.
You have approved other palm trees?
Different species and in different locations.
Okay, well, roughly how many, do you know?
I looked back 10 years and I found 2.
Thank you.
We'll go on then to item 13 on the...
Excuse me, John. Excuse me. One quick question.
Sorry, I wasn't looking the right direction.
What gave the owner authorization to plant the tree?
You may have to ask the owner that question. We never gave the owner authorization to plant that tree or the sago palm. As far as the sago palm is concerned, were there to be an application for that, I don't see that we would have an issue with that.
Herm, I think the applicant said that they decided, I made the note, he decided to plant it and take the risk. Item 13 is future agenda recommendations. I have this to offer for your concurrence. For our workshop on the 5th of November, Mark Rogers will bring us some information on electrical vehicles as a proposal for use by the staff. We'll have an opportunity to discuss the seismic report that you now have copies of from Rear Anderson. We will have discussion of proposed FIC and LIC charters. We'll have discussion of the RF2 material that's now reached Jim Kaiser's house for review, and any other things that you would like to suggest to me. We may also have a special board meeting in conjunction with that to approve the bids to do the East Rec Center locker room repair. For the November board meeting, I've noted down that we will have nominating committee proposals. We'll have a Central Business Center detail design report from the Detail Design Committee. We'll have discussion of new pool furniture for the west and the east. We'll have Hugh Helms' recommendations on an ad hoc employee Abuse Committee. We'll have approval of the committee policy, which has now been published, and appoint liaisons. And we'll have the pickleball ad hoc committee recommendation at that time. Are there other items you want me to put down?
John,
your microphone so I can hear you.
At one time, I thought you said for the workshop in November, we would talk about the seismic report at the West Rec.
I did say that, and we will.
I'm a little confused. You said some of these might be on a special meeting or?
Just the East Rec locker room contract.
I have one other, Hugh Helms' report a couple of months ago regarding phones. Were we ever going to take action on that?
Yes, I've resolved 2 of the recommended locations, and I'm working to resolve the 3rd. And
Thank you.
Staff will be implementing it. One of the approved new locations is outdoors, adjacent to the lawn bowling room. I've talked with those people, and the location can be an extension off of the phone in the card room. The second one is to move the phone that is in the library workroom outside to the outside wall of the library workroom, and this was applauded by the library workers. They get too many requests to hand it out. The one that's not resolved is finding a location in the lobby area of the CAC that would not be vandalized. So it's partly underway. Any other business for this list? Then can we have the taskmaster list?
President Taylor, the only item I have was one involving your follow-up regarding the Goodwill donation truck.
Thank you. Then we'll go into executive session.
John, before you do that,
please.
I hate to be a wet blanket, but you have not come to any conclusion on the last item on the agenda. Item 12. And as I recall, in at least my time on the architectural committee, that any resident who wishes to have this matter taken care of in an open meeting, it has to be done in the open meeting. You can't just listen to it and then go into an executive meeting and make the decision. That is up to the resident. If he wants it in an executive session, he may have it in, but he has not. He's asked for it in an open meeting, so you have to make your decision in an open meeting.
Unless overruled by the board, I will tell you that David Sterling says that a disciplinary hearing can take place in the open, but the decision on the disciplinary hearing has to be discussed in executive session. So the people involved in presenting their arguments are excused.
Okay, but that's not overruled by our
David Sterling takes precedence over our bylaws.
Thank you.
We're adjourned to executive session.